Howdy folks, Nathan coming at you from beautiful Boulder, Colorado, and this is the stunning to look at 2021 Infiniti QX55. And the question is it more than a pretty face? This vehicle is known as the Sensory Edition. I have no idea why, but I will say this. This color, slate gray, looks really good on this vehicle. The styling is what it's all about, because otherwise you wouldn't even think about this vehicle, because it has a brother with the exact same platform that has a much more usable rear hatch, and that's the QX50, which I've already driven. And it wasn't a bad drive, but talking about styling, that's what this is all about. So let's start in the front. Come on over here. Look at this. That is a big grille and a massive emblem, but everybody's doing it today, so all the kids want to play in the same sandbox. If this was an Acura or a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW, it would be a pretty big emblem as well. The one thing is that this grille has a very interesting design. According to the press from Infiniti, they used an origami styling, if they say so. But what I really like is over here. Look at what they did with the hood. This clamshell design is fantastic. Look how it goes over the fender. What I like about that is that it doesn't show any gaps, because it is a gap, and it's kind of a cool one. But there's more, because if you like Jaguar, look at this. Very similar to Jaguar, but they managed to put the whole design together in what I think is a very pleasing way. And one of the reasons why this vehicle will sell fairly well for Infiniti is because of the way it looks. Let's continue, and I will show you the main issue here, good or bad, depending on who you are. By the way, I do like this curve. Look at this. One curve up here, really sharp, and then this one down here, right? That goes inward, and then another curve that goes inward as well. Everything kind of pulls in, and I think that they did a great job making it look unique. Nobody's going to confuse this for a BMW or for a Mercedes-Benz. This is what makes it unique compared to its brother. Whammo! That is now a hatch. Not only a hatch, but it's not even an SUV. It's like a hatchback hatch. Kind of a fastback. Go figure. The good news is it looks decent, and it looks better than most of the Germans. Now, I know you guys are going to argue with me. Look, compared to the GLC and compared to the X4, I think that this is a much more stylistic look. But you may disagree. One thing that I think we can all agree on, the rear taillights. They look really good. I love the styling. It's kind of like a wing, and it is all LED, of course. Where's the button? There it is right there to open it. It's another little styling cool thing. And then, of course, we've got the what used to be cavernous, now fairly roomy cargo area. One of the things you lose is a little bit of cargo space, and you can see why. The QX50, that area would come out like so and be much more of a box in the back and a lot more useful. This one, you still get 26.9 cubic feet of space back here. That's not too bad. We're using this backpack for scale, and as you can see, that's not too bad. Oh, and by the way, under here, some extra storage, which is very handy. We're off the dirt, and that's a good thing, because this doesn't like dirt very much. It's definitely not an off-road vehicle. Although, when I drove its brother, it did fine in snow. It was light snow, but it did really good. The all-wheel drive system comes standard. And there are a couple things that I wanted to convey upon driving. One of which is sight lines, which aren't too bad up front when you're looking out front windshield or to the sides, but if you're looking over your shoulder, you are going to have a tough time, and that is primarily because of the shape of the pillar in the back. But in terms of driving, this thing is actually kind of a pleasure. It's possibly one of my favorite vehicles equipped with a CVT to drive. And I don't say that lightly, because I'm not a big fan of continuously variable transmissions. What you're looking at here is a 268 horsepower four-cylinder that puts out 280 pound-feet of torque. But it's not a regular 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. This is a variable compression 4-cylinder engine. To cut through all the minutiae, to simply say that this engine basically has two personalities. One where you're giving it a lot of power, one where you're getting good economy. And the way it works simply is it changes the stroke of the piston. You can have a lot more compression, a lot less compression, from 8-to-1, 14-to-1. You get more power or better fuel mileage. And the whole thing is hooked up to a continuously variable transmission, a CVT. That might be the weakest point of this whole vehicle. But what's really interesting about it is this engine actually sounds really different. And one other thing, now they haven't released the official gas mileage numbers, however, its bigger brother, the QX50, gets around 25 mpg combined, which isn't too bad for a vehicle in this segment. Now, if you look down here, this is their drive mode, okay? Now I'm gonna flick it and you're gonna look at the screen up here, which came out of last decade. And you can do Eco, Standard, Sport, which I'm gonna put it into, and then Personal, where you can change the settings yourself to make it suit your taste. I'm gonna leave it in Sport. Now what that does is that changes the steering, and it makes the reactions, everything around the car, feel a little bit tighter. But it also, aside from being very quick with the steering, by the way, makes a hell of a noise. Listen to this. I mean, isn't that a weird kind of gurgly? It sounds almost like it wants to be angry and mean, but it's not quite angry and mean. You know what I mean? Okay, I said mean a lot, but you know what I'm saying. It's a trip, right? Here, listen again. It's kind of like a boat or something like that. It's just a very different type of sound. Hello and welcome to a very, very pretty interior. This color is called Monaco Red. And what's really cool about it is the fact that it is part of what I consider to be a very comfortable yet sporty looking interior that only has one minor flaw. Only one! So let's talk about the positives first of all. Contrasting stitching, lots and lots of leather. Everywhere you touch is leather. This really cool wood, which has a very interesting feel to it. It's almost deliberately done, so when you touch it, you think, oh, that's really real wood. It's like beyond a certain point. Bose stereo system. The whole layout with the steering wheel and the seats and this rather small cubby area, all of it is very nice, very comfortable. But then we come to this, and this is a dual screen infotainment setup. And it is a little bit on the old side in terms of styling, in terms of overall design. Most people would take both of these and combine them into one large screen, or perhaps having it set up differently. This is just a very old design that looks like it's right out of a Nissan Maxima. And to me, it kind of lets down what otherwise is an absolutely fabulous interior design. I'm not saying it's not useful, because it is. It actually works quite well because it's very simple. But if you sit in this and then you jump into, let's say something that's from Mercedes-Benz or from BMW or Audi or Cadillac for that matter, Lexus, they have a much more up-to-date looking infotainment system with a much better setup altogether. The graphics, everything else. This is just a little bit lower and it feels a little bit dated. Good news is, once again, these seats are very comfortable and very stylish. But let me show you the back seats. Aha! Now, one of the things about this vehicle is it's not a very big car. It's not an SUV. Come on, guys. It is a crossover. And it's one that doesn't have a ton of space, especially for my feet, which won't quite fit under the front seat. I can't get my boots under here. So, my seat's all the way back. I'm around 6'1", and there is just enough room. If I were a smaller person, more importantly with smaller feet, I might be able to get them underneath here. That is a bit of an issue. Headroom isn't terrible, but because of the roof design, if I lean my head back, you can see that I'm touching a little bit. That's where its brother would make a lot more sense, the QX50. And you have cup holders in here, and you have climate control down there, and vents, all of which are great. There is another thing. You know, recently I was in some much less expensive versions of various crossovers in the size category, and they had a massive panoramic sunroof, and this one doesn't. It has this little tiny one up there. I don't know, for the money, I'd like a bigger sunroof. If you guys want to do a 0 to 60 with me, go for it, but I'm not doing it for that. Ready? Here we go. There goes the turbo. Pretty good thrust. And fake gears. There we go, 60. So this is a CVT. It does have paddle shifters, which are completely useless with a CVT. But some people do like them because it'll keep the revs up when you're going through a corner. If you're really getting into that, it's kind of useless. But some people do like that. The thing is about this car, no matter what speed you're going, steering is really responsive, especially in sport mode. And body control is outstanding for a crossover. But I bet you guys are wondering, why didn't he mention the FX? See, back in the day, Nissan Infiniti put out the FX35 and the XF45. FX. I can't speak English. Let's try that again. Nissan and Infiniti put out the FX35 and the FX45, and these were similar to this, coupe-like crossovers, but those had really beefy powertrains, and they were really sporty. At the time, they were some of the sportiest crossovers you could buy, and this isn't quite there, but I will say this, in terms of a modern, efficient vehicle that has good handling characteristics, this is quite good. Now, it's not exactly a sticker, but this is what Infiniti gave us. So let me give you the price. Now, this is really the top of the line. So this is the QX55 Sensory all-wheel drive, and its total MSRP is $58,770. Now, that is a lot of dough. These vehicles start at around $48,500. This setup, though, with everything you get, is comparable to more expensive German vehicles, the GLC, the X4, the Audi Q5. But here's the thing about it. Personally speaking, in terms of its dynamics, where it sits in terms of the price category, having a beefy 4-cylinder engine and being kind of a cool car that isn't quite as, I don't know, snooty as perhaps the Germans and Lexus and whatnot, I would actually prefer, just a little bit better, I think, in terms of driving dynamics, the Acura RDX. That's just a personal thing. However, in terms of handling, in terms of scoot, it actually moves pretty nice. And the exhaust note, it's weird, kind of in a cool way. I think this offers so much. If they were able to ditch the CVT, and if they were able to change around that infotainment system, this car would be epic. As it is, it's quite good. You know what it reminds me of? A lot of people online like to use contour to make their face look really, really, really pretty, and then when you see them in person, you realize, oop, that's not really what they look like. This is the reverse of that. It looks better in person. It's a beautiful car. I think that they did a great job with styling, and if they can just bring the engineering up a little bit higher, it'll be a world-class, kick-ass choice. Thanks for joining me for the Fast Lane Car. This is Nathan. I'll see you next time.